This is the RS-28 Sarmat. Russia calls it Satan II, a name carefully chosen to convey exactly what it represents: apocalyptic destruction. More than 200 tons, hypersonic speed 5 times the speed of sound, it's capable of carrying up to 16 independent nuclear warheads. Its range! Anywhere on the planet. Literally, Washington, London, Paris. No capital is outside its range. This is the missile that Putin promised as the future of Russian nuclear deterrence, the doomsday weapon. At least on paper. Because what happened when Russia tried to prove to the world that the Satan II really works was a disaster. A disaster that Putin would rather you never knew about. And you know what's even more bizarre? All of this is connected to something much bigger than just a missile test gone wrong. But before I tell you that, you need to see exactly what happened. Russian steppe, Orenburg region. The cameras are rolling. This is a test that Russia wants the world to see. Putin needs to prove that this weapon works. The missile begins to rise, 200 tons of metal and toxic fuel leaving the ground. In the first few seconds, everything seems normal. But then, 7 seconds after launch, the missile starts to spin. It's not a maneuver, it's a complete loss of control. It's like watching a 200-ton cannonball and realizing you no longer know where it's going. It was 15 seconds and a complete disintegration. The explosion lights up the Russian sky. And then it appears, a massive toxic purple cloud spreading over Russian territory. The images are all over the internet, and Putin can't deny it. Not this time. But wait, it gets worse, much worse. That purple color isn't just dramatic, it's a signature. It's called nitrogen tetroxide, one of the most poisonous fuels used in missiles. When the tanks rupture in the air, this chemical mixes with hydrazine. The result is that characteristic cloud. It's as if the missile is leaving a chemical message. Yes, I am the Sarmat. Yes, I just exploded. And the size of that cloud reveals that the missile was fully loaded. Putin wanted this test to go from central Russia all the way to Kamchatka, more than 5,000 kilometers, a demonstration of power. Instead, the Satan II barely made it 400 meters before turning into purple smoke over Russian territory itself. And while Putin watched his superweapon become a joke on the internet. Do you know what was happening elsewhere in Europe? Sweden, a country that had been neutral for 200 years, was signing contracts to develop missiles with a range of 2,000 kilometers. Enough to reach Moscow. Not on paper, not in propaganda. Real contracts with real companies, with aggressive deadlines. 18 months for a working prototype. While Russia can barely make a missile that doesn't explode, Europe is quietly building an entire network of offensive capabilities. Efficiently, with results. But hold on. You need to understand how we got here, because this story has such brutal irony that you'll have to hear it twice to believe it. Should we return to the Cold War? The Soviet Union built the R-36M, an intercontinental missile that actually worked. This missile went through 20 tests, 20 successes, 0 catastrophic failures. That was Soviet engineering at its peak. Rigorous, tested, functional. The R-36M became the backbone of the Soviet nuclear arsenal and operated for decades. But these missiles were designed to last 30 years. The service life ended in 2016, and Russia had nothing ready to replace them. so they kept using missiles that were past their expiration date. And that's where the Sarmat comes in. It was supposed to be the new generation, the perfect replacement. But do you know what the result was? A partial success. Putting it in numbers, we're talking about 1 in every 5 attempts, a success rate of 20%. Let me give some perspective. The Soviet missile from the Cold War had 20 successes before entering service. The modern Russian missile had 1 partial success and 4 spectacular explosions. Today's Russia can't do what the Soviet Union used to do in its sleep. And now comes the part you won't believe. Pay attention, because this is important. Do you know who kept those R-36M missiles working? Who maintained the Russian nuclear arsenal? Ukraine. Let me repeat. Ukraine. Until 2014, Ukrainian companies were responsible for the maintenance, Ukrainian engineers, Ukrainian factories, Ukrainian expertise, keeping Putin's missiles operational. And then, Putin invaded Crimea in 2014, and with that, Ukraine cut all ties. Immediately, maintenance was over, expertise was gone, knowledge was lost. Putin literally destroyed the only thing that kept his nuclear arsenal working. It's like punching your own mechanic and then being surprised when your car won't start anymore. Except here, the car has nuclear warheads. And while Russia was desperately trying to rebuild knowledge it had destroyed itself, Europe was taking notes. France, Germany, Italy, Poland, all launching long-range missile programs. The British company Guest, Keen and Nettlefolds Aerospace, developing engines, the Netherlands, designing missile bodies. These aren't 10-year projects, they're 18-month development cycles. That's an innovation speed that Russia can no longer keep up with. Because Russia is trying to fix old missiles it no longer knows how to maintain, while building new missiles that explode with embarrassing regularity. And November 2025 wasn't the first time. In September 2024, another Sarmat, another explosion. This time completely destroyed a launch silo at the Plesetsk Cosmodrome. Satellite images show a 60-meter crater, a crater that simply didn't exist before. A few months earlier, that silo was prepared to be the home of the first operational Sarmats. It's still just a hole in the ground and hasn't been rebuilt. So, even if Russia managed to get a Sarmat to fly without exploding, they wouldn't have anywhere to put it. Do you realize what that means? Russia has a nuclear arsenal that depends on 2 things. First, missiles that have been expired for almost 10 years and that nobody knows how to properly maintain anymore. And second, new missiles that explode 80% of the time. It's like trying to intimidate someone with a weapon that's more likely to explode in your hand than to hit the target. And the whole world is seeing this, including China and India, all the countries that relied on Russia to maintain some kind of strategic balance. Everyone saw that purple cloud. Everyone got the message. And you know what's even more devastating? Putin announced in November 2024 that the Sarmat would enter combat service in 2025. November 2024. Weeks before the test that you just saw explode. He said that only bureaucratic procedures needed to be completed, that mass production was close. This was after a single partially successful test and multiple failures. It's propaganda clashing with reality in the most brutal way possible. Because if Russia actually put the Sarmat into service now, it would be more likely to hit its own territory than any other country. A missile with 16 nuclear warheads that fails 80% of the time. Imagine, mutually assured destruction has turned into self-destruction. And the reason is that Russia has lost its industrial capacity. It's that simple. The company that manufactures the Sarmat's propulsion system is critically understaffed. The missile is one of the most complex projects Russia has ever tried to develop. And they're doing it without the Soviet infrastructure, without the Ukrainian expertise they destroyed, without the resources they once had. It's like trying to rebuild a Formula One car without half of the parts and none of the original engineers. And all of this while expecting it to win the race? But wait, there's more. Because the Russian superweapons don't stop at the Sarmat. Remember the Kinzhal? The hypersonic missile that Putin promised would be unstoppable? Actual data from the war in Ukraine shows a much different story. American Patriot systems have intercepted Kinzhal repeatedly, with an interception rate of 37%. It's not high, but consider that it was supposed to be a missile that was supposedly impossible to stop. Russia modified the software, added maneuvers, terminal phases, and abrupt dives. The rate dropped to 6%. Sounds impressive, right? Ukraine developed an electronic warfare system named Lima. It doesn't destroy the missile. It jams the global positioning system so the missile misses. It's pure chess. One makes a move, the other makes a counter-move. And with each round, it becomes more obvious that the superweapons aren't that super after all. Meanwhile, Europe isn't just building defenses, it's building its swords. Conventional, non-nuclear missiles with surgical precision. Missiles capable of hitting military bases, command centers, critical infrastructure. Inside Russia, the message is clear. Europe will no longer only defend itself. Now it has the ability to respond, to make it hurt, to make Putin think 3 times before making any threats. And they're doing this without propaganda, without bombastic speeches, with contracts, with prototypes, with results. As you can see, Satan II was supposed to be the weapon that would keep the world afraid of Russia. The ultimate proof that Moscow is still a relevant nuclear superpower. Instead, it became the perfect symbol of a declining empire. A missile that explodes more than it flies. A promise that literally goes up in smoke. That purple cloud over Russia isn't just the result of a failed test. It's the physical image of an era ending. The era when Russia could intimidate with nuclear threats, because now everyone has seen it. Meanwhile, its neighbors are arming themselves quietly, efficiently, and successfully. Now, I want to know your opinion. Do you think Russia will eventually manage to make the Sarmat work? Or is this project definitely dead? Leave your answer in the comments if this video showed you what's really happening behind the Russian nuclear threats. Share this with someone who needs to understand this, and subscribe to the channel for more analyses like this. See you next time.